to be here joining everyone after a couple weeks of here and there broadcasting. How are you, Steve?
Here and there broadcasting. There you are. That's a different one. Doing just dandy. Doing
Good,
just
good. I'm
dandy.
glad to hear it. What have you been up to the last couple weeks?
Oh golly. Been doing a lot of work around the ranch here. Been working my pup. We got him. Ain't a lot of people do this, but got him 7 sheep, and so we work sheep every single day, and he preferred to work cows, but cows are a little bit more difficult to maintain, try to take care of. So we got him 7 sheep. We've been doing that. Fire department's been fairly busy. We haven't had many
Now,
grass
what do you
fires
mean the
and stuff.
fire department? For those who don't know, why don't you go ahead and tell them real quick?
Well, I'm a volunteer fire department firefighter, and we do all kinds of calls, car accidents. Today we had a man, 90 years old, that had fell, and really nice guy. And it's really awesome to see these firefighters, volunteers, take their time out of their lives, drop whatever they're doing, and come running. It's just a wonderful thing. And the training that we go through, we have good leadership. But I've really been enjoying this, helping out my community.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, folks, we get together here just about every single week for about an hour. Last couple weeks, it's been a little bit of a hit or miss just because of summer schedules, but we're here for the whole hour today from 2:30 Pacific Daylight Time to 3:30 Pacific Daylight Time. We're here to hang out, and so if you're new to the show, if you're new to even to Queen Valley Mule Ranch, we'll just tell you how it works. There's really only 3 things you need to know. Number one, the first thing that we ask is that you just share your name and where you're watching from. We like knowing that we're not alone. We like knowing that other folks are out there working with mules, working with donkeys, especially if you're just getting into them. I've gotten so many emails of folks saying, hey, I've had horses my entire life. I just started to look at the mule and the donkey, and I'm finding that I wish I would have spent time with them a long time back. And that's a common refrain that we hear from people. So share that you're here, share that you're watching, where you're watching from. The second thing is you are the ones that control this show. Without you, there is no show. So if you have any questions about mules, about donkeys, what you're working with, go ahead, put that in the comment section. We do our best to make sure we capture every single question and make sure you get answers. And then the third and final thing is if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and share the broadcast with your friends or family by just clicking the share button below. That's all you need to do. Share it, maybe say why you're watching, what you enjoy about it. But that's pretty much all you need to do, and we have ourselves a good time here. So let's take a look, see who's hanging out with us so far. We've got Warren from Oklahoma. We've got Rebecca from North Carolina. We got Jason from Pennsylvania. We've got David Pengelly from Sonoya, Georgia. And what does David Pengelly have that nobody else in the world has that we've started pushing through our website? What is that, Steve?
Oh, some of the best coffee you'd ever want to drink. I mean, it is good coffee, that's for sure.
3 flavors, right?
Oh, man, 3 flavors, yes. Ask, tell, demand. It's called Come Along Coffee.
Right. That's right.
Oh, that Davey's a character.
Oh, yeah. We love David. We love the Come Along Coffee. We love all of the friends that we've made here over the last year or so of doing these broadcasts. And so I've got a collection of questions here to ask. So if it's all right, we're just going to go ahead and get to it. You all right with that, Steve?
Hey, matter of fact, I was just thinking a few minutes ago, yesterday, I had a guy call me. They've been having problems with contracted heels, and we had a 3-way call, and I actually told and taught a farrier how to fix contracted heels on his mule. And the owner of that mule is going to be shooting video, and he's going to be documenting it so we can be putting it on YouTube and other places to keep track of it, see how this guy's going to do.
Hey, that's fantastic. And that's, a lot of folks, they don't realize that we can do training online, that we can do training through the internet. And what winds up happening, and so if this is, right up your alley, what winds up happening is folks will say, hey, let's just take saddle, for instance. Hey, I got my new saddle. I've got all tacked up and everything. Can you take a look and just see, if there's anything I'm missing? And just from a simple picture, folks will text you and you'll be able to send them real-time feedback so they can make the simple adjustments that they need so they don't wind up having problems, 30 days, 60 days, 6 months, a year down the road. And it's really quite a lot of fun how that's happened. We've got Emma from Norco, California, watching over on YouTube. So, Emma, it's good to have you here. Let's go ahead and get to our first question. Our first question today comes from Gloria. Gloria sent in an email and asks the question. Let's see here. Hope you're all having a fantastic week. We are, Gloria. I have asked this question the last 2 weeks, not sure if it got missed. And sometimes that happens. Folks will put something in on Facebook, and Facebook won't show it to us. So I appreciate you sending it back in, Gloria. Should one tent up Steve's saddle pad before placing the saddle on them? Thanks for your help. We enjoy the live feed each week with you and Steve. She's writing to me. She says, tell him we keep wearing a different hat. Tell him to keep wearing a different hat each week. That's how we can tell if it's a new one on YouTube. How do you, and she says, how do you like our big hats in the picture below? Really cool, nice sombrero looking hats. So let's go back to the question. Should one tent up Steve's saddle pads before placing them on, placing the saddles on? Now, what does tent up mean? And then go ahead and answer that question.
Okay, basically, if you look at most pads, you have to kind of pull up on them so they come up off of the mule's back, and then it won't stay flat. But if you look at my saddle pads, the way they're designed, they're already, quote, tinted up. They're already pulled up off of the 3 bones in the back on the spine, those little 3 bones that are back in the back, and sometimes there's a 4th one that shows up, and it's already pulled up over top of the wither. So to answer the question, no, you don't have to, but that's what happens, folks. You have to think about this. That saddle pad is underneath there. The saddle was never designed to have a blanket underneath it. That's why it has the wool. Just throw the saddle on and go ride. That's what they did. That's what the military did. The only reason they threw a blanket underneath the saddle is so they'd have something to sleep on. That's pretty much it, But you don't have to tent up. You don't have to pull up my saddles. If you look at that pad, it's already there. It's already shaped. It's shaped to the wither of the mule. It's shaped to the tail section of the mule. And the bars set right on, the saddle of the bar set right on the bars of the pad. And so that automatically creates a little reservoir area for the air to flow through.
Very good. And that air is what's super important. And then go ahead and every half hour, every 45 minutes, hour, get off, loosen everything up, and air it out in the back. How often would you do that, Steve?
It really kind of depends on what you're doing. But I'm going to say, the average rider to save their back and legs every 2 to maybe 3 hours.
Okay.
If I'm pushing cows, and this sort of thing, I don't always have the luxury of climbing off and airing out my back. But I try to, if I can get myself in a place to where I can get off, pull the back of the saddle up, let it up and down a few times. Even my pad, as much as I've spent time to design it the way it is, you can still overheat them, folks. I mean, it's really easy to overheat a mule's back and create the white hairs. Hey, Dave, I think I sent you the picture. One of our clients sent me a picture of the white hairs on the back of their mule, and It was great because it showed the white hairs right where it should be on the back half and no white hairs in the front. So you knew he had that saddle rigged down correctly.
Talk about the white hairs real quick so folks understand what they are and where they come from.
Very good. Okay, white hairs, that is a scald. That's where the hair follicles have overheated and, for lack of a better word, are bubbling up. And so the hair follicles then, after a while, they can't take the pressure of not having airflow through it, and then they die off, and they fade back, and then they turn white, and then everybody looks at the white spots and thinks it's a bad fit. No, it's a hot, sultry day. And if you see the full length of a bar, you know darn well you had the perfect fit. But where we usually see the white hairs is right in the very front, where people over tighten the saddle and don't do that. So white hairs of scald is not from a poor fitting saddle. It is from wool pads. It is from not letting the back of the saddle up and down and cooling the mule's back off.
All right, very good, very, very helpful. All right, let's take a look and see who else is hanging out with us here. So we've got Eileen says, good coffee. The Come Along Coffee, good coffee. Thank you so much for that, Eileen. I know David is excited to hear that. We've got Linda watching from Discovery Bay, California. We've got Cindy from Oregon. We've got Kevin. Kevin, good to have you here again. Ricky is making good progress with Jake. She was able to get him to stand still in the round pen while she got on and off several times. We may be getting close to hitting the trails. Ain't that exciting, Steve?
Awesome. I love it. I love it when people, they think they have to have a professional trainer. When they want to enjoy the animal, sure. Those first few rides can be a little bit on the scary side, but get it done. It's training mules and donkeys is not rocket science, folks.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, and it's proof here because we're doing it on over the internet. Danelle has a question. Danelle asks, do you have an instructional video on how to adjust the knots on the halter? And Danielle, yes, we do. I'll go ahead and grab that as Steve answers the next question. The next question we got, and folks, we got a lot of people watching. I'm going to get through all of the welcomes here, but I want to ask this one from Kristen. Kristen sent in an email and says, I have an 8-year-old mini donkey who is a pasture pal to my horse. The horses are fed together. Their meal is split between Timothy grass, orchard grass, and just a bit less than quarter of flake of alfalfa hay. Our little Mini is a bit overweight. My vet is not concerned. Should I be concerned?
Yes, and your vet should be concerned too. Here's the problem, folks, and they don't really seem to do much with mules and donkeys in vet school. And I know that simply because I've talked to a lot of vets and stuff. But look, we should not be feeding our mules and our donkeys with our horses. That's a completely different mindset when it comes down to feeding. Mules and donkeys, I've seen them eat a little bit, walk away, let it digest, get a drink of water, come back again. Darned old horse will stuck his nose in there and won't come out. That mule and donkey should be fed completely separate because the donkey does not need alfalfa. They don't need it. Actually, even horses don't need it either, but especially mules and donkeys because they develop the fat pocket along the crest of the neck, the dock of the tail, and the top of the ribs. And you put all of that weight on top of them little donkey feet, that's not good. Feed, folks, feed your animals separate. Every horse, every mule, every donkey should have its own feeding program. Not just here's a flake of hay and away you go. Don't work that way. When I was training, David, I had individual stalls. I still got them back here at the ranch. 10 foot wide, 20 foot long. Each mule had its stall. Each mule had its personal feeding program for what they were doing. So, it may be a pasture buddy, but when it comes down to feed, folks, if you love your mule and your donkeys, don't overfeed them.
Absolutely. So next question we got here is, let's see here. Actually, we've got Jana from Wyoming. That's where I was at last week, Steve. I was in Wyoming. I was at Yellowstone in the Grand Teton National Forest. It was amazing. Maybe I'll put a couple pictures up on Facebook so folks can see. Yeah,
and you'll tell us a little bit later on toward the end of the show.
I will. I'll share a couple stories. It was fantastic. Yeah. Yolanda from the Netherlands, gone international.
There we are.
Good to see you, Yolanda. Eileen has a question. Eileen's asking, is there a possibility of a mule experiencing mild colic due to weather changes?
Yes, and yes. Folks, just because you hear these stories that mules and donkeys don't colic, push the button. That is wrong. I'll tell you what, I have seen colic at Bishop, California at the World Championships. These mules have been traveling a lot of miles. Here's the problem, folks. They get themselves dehydrated and then they're easy to colic. Okay? So get your electrolytes out. I had my granddaughter. They went camping here this last week, and for the first time taking the mule out. And the mule's name is Sweetie, which, by the way, was my uncle's favorite name to call my aunt. Aunt Sylvia was Sweetie. But anyway, the first thing I said was electrolytes. Get your tube of electrolytes, give it to them the night before, then the next day give them another half, and then put them in a trailer. Because what they do is they dehydrate themselves. Bishop, they could smell a lot of chlorine in the water, and the mules are very, very sensitive to smells and sights and this sort of thing. And so they would dehydrate, and then they would become colicky because their intestines got dry. So don't think they don't get colic. Yeah, a weather change, not too often. Now, when I was training a lot of horses, we had a weather change. We had colic. It was a bugger. Not too often with mules, but this mule could very well do it. Folks, you've got to take care of your mules and donkeys, and don't think they don't colic, and don't think they don't founder. They do.
Awesome. Jason's watching from Pennsylvania. Good to have you here, Jason. Over on YouTube, we got a bunch of folks watching on YouTube. We've got Preaching Cowboy. Praise the Lord, fellas. Randy Reasoner from Rockin' Cross Ranch in McLeod, Oklahoma. Steve is helping us here at the ranch as I get mule ready to rope steers. We are excited about it. Awesome. How cool is that?
Yeah, Randy, I just sent him one of my cowboy saddles, breechings, and breast collars and all this stuff. And I met Randy, 20-some years ago at a Cowboy Preachers Conference in Las Vegas up there. And anyway, great guy. He's going to be team roping off of his mule. Now, he's a team roper, so that's a bad disease. That's the only way you can get rid of the disease is to keep team roping, or your wife divorces you.
What is a team roping? I've never heard that.
Team roping is this. You've got a rider on the left, a roper on the left, and a roper on the right. The roper on the left ropes the head. The roper on the right ropes the back feet. And in the middle over here, they have a chute with a Coriani steer with horns coming out that's wrapped. So when that gate opens up, and they jump out. I've already got my hands ready. Anyway, they jump out, and that roper, they can't jump the line, because if they jump the line, that's a no time, okay? So there's a line going across in front of them. So when that Coriani goes out, it's a timed event, and then the header comes out, and the header comes up and ropes the horns of the steer, turns off to the left, and then the healer comes in, and that's going to be Randy, and he's going to be coming in, and he's going to rope both hind hocks, dally up, and then they spread the steer out, and that's your time.
How awesome.
Yeah, so
that
Randy
sounds like a lot of fun. You're making it sound like a lot of fun.
It is. It is a lot of fun. I prefer myself ranch roping. I like doing that. But here, when you start roping, T-roping, you start getting the disease. You start trailering up, and you run to this roping and that roping, and you're also making money too. You can do jackpots and make money, but you have two lines. One line is heel line, and the other guy's a header line. There's always a bunch of guys heading, because that's pretty easy to do. But myself, I heeled, so I was always on that side. And mule's always a little bit more slower to it than a horse is. So it's good to have that horse get out there and rope that head, and then the healer come in and pick up two hocks and dally, and you got it. Yeah, it's fun.
Folks, did you all know that you were going to be learning about that today? I had no idea. That is what happens here on these live clinic Q&As. So much fun. We've got David Walls from Kentucky. First time I've been off work early in weeks to watch y'all live. David, we're glad that you're here. Sid, thank you all for doing this live feed. Very informative to a mule owner want to be. Sid in Fancy Gap, Virginia. Then we've got down here, Jamie Chalmers says, Hey, bro, how you doing, mate? Jamie, we're doing real good, We've got Linda. Linda says, reporting back to you from your advice that it was not okay to use a single cinch Mustang soft saddle on my mule. Theo, even for 20 minutes beginner ride, I got the help I needed. I put the 41-pound saddle up on. Let's see here. Is there any other? It would put it on in place, and Theo was great. Rode quietly into the sunset out in pasture, and my husband built me a great mounting block. Awesome. Isn't that so cool? So for those who don't know, Linda chimed in 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and said, hey, I've got this saddle. It's really hard for me to lift up the full-size saddle. I've got this one. It's a single cinch, and so we had some teachable moments there back and forth where we said, hey, we understand that, it's heavier, but to do right by your mule, here are the things that you want to do. So we love it, Linda, that you came back, gave us a report, and love it even more to hear that Theo did real well. That's what we want to hear, ain't it, Steve?
Yeah, boy, that's perfect. That's what I'm talking about, Dave. We're able to help people out. We help Linda out there, and she's going good. And hopefully, what people just heard, they can go and tell somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about this, Dave. There's not a day that don't go by, and not a day that don't go by that I don't have somebody say thank you for that broadcast. And folks, that's why we're here. We're here to help.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you folks know this. Doing this broadcast in 2019 was all part of Steve's master plan. When he got started back in 1981 with the Mules, he says, I know that this internet thing's coming up. I know that there's going to be Facebook and YouTube, and we're going to do live streams. I just got to get there, right? That was all part of the master plan. Everybody knew you'd be able to do this on the internet, right?
Well, we were looking at all kinds of ways, and still we're not done yet, right, Dave?
We're not done yet. We've got lots of good stuff.
Yep.
Let's see here. Who else do we have that we want to welcome? Let's see. Warren says, my wife ordered me one of your rope halters, but I can't tell how to adjust and tie it properly from watching your video. Warren, this is a great example. Give Steve a call. Call him up, 602-999-6853. You can find his number on the website. You'll get his voicemail. Leave a voicemail. He will call you back. We've recorded probably 5 or 6 different rope halter adjustment videos, and you know what? Each video kind of seems to speak to each different person, and then there's some folks who it really is helpful to have somebody there walking them through it, and we are okay with that, aren't we, Steve?
Absolutely. In 5 minutes we can get her done. It's not a problem. But
absolutely,
that's the whole idea of this thing is help. Let me help you.
Yep. That's what we want to do. We want to help you. So Beth's got a question. Beth, it's so good to have you here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us week after week after week. We love having you. She says, hi, Steve and Dave. I've got a question that's been asked to me, and I'm not sure how to answer it. Here is the question. People accept that mules are smarter than horses, and that is due to their being half donkey. Does that mean that the donkey are the smartest? I didn't have a good answer. Somehow I think it's a mix of half horse, half donkey is the perfect cerebral recipe. Thanks, Beth, New Hampshire. What would you have to say there? We've never been asked this one specifically.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, them donkeys are super smart. If I have to say what's the smartest equine, it has to be the donkey. And the reason I say that is there's so many natural things that a donkey just naturally does. They don't just go up there and stick their nose in a bucket of grain and stay there until it's gone. They'll eat so much and they leave. Well, that mule has that attribute, Now, don't get me wrong. Once in a while, you'll have one that'll break the chain and be a little bit different. But for the most part, that donkey, that's kind of the brains of the situation. That's why you have... I believe why you have a whole lot less of the runaway situation, because the donkey tends to stop to look rather than flight and fright, and the bucking, to have a donkey buck is just about impossible. They don't want to waste their time and energy.
Love that. So we got a question here. This one comes from Albert over on YouTube. So we got a lot of folks hanging out with us on YouTube. We're really glad to have you guys. which if this is your first time ever hanging out with us, ever spending time with us, my name is Dave. This is Steve right here. Steve and I have known each other all the way since back to about 2005, 2006, something like that. So we've been friends for over a decade, and we get together every Wednesday and just talk mules and donkeys. Steve got his start with mules and donkeys back in 1981 with old Jasper. He went to go take a look at this mule. Got on the mule bucked him off, said, all right, I'm buying that animal right there, and I'm going to get even with him. And that launched him into the next 40 years of just learning about these animals, learning about the differences between the mule and the donkey, from all the way from their minds and how they work, which we just talked about, all the way to their bodies and bone structure and what makes them different than a horse. And one of the biggest things that I have appreciated about doing these is I learn more and more and more that the mule and donkey are to be respected as the unique creations that they are, and not just be lumped in with all of the other equine. Horses are unique, and the different breeds of horses are unique, and they should be respected as such, and so should the mule and the donkey. And so that's what we do. So just let us know that you're watching. Put your name and where you're watching from in the comment section. Go ahead and ask your question. There's no dumb question, and there's no question that we would say, oh, we've answered that too many times already. Every single question that we have an opportunity to answer, we want to answer it because they all have different nuances, and they're all coming from a different perspective. And then the third thing is just share the broadcast. If you love it, if you love what we're doing, or say, yeah, we want you to keep doing this, share the broadcast. Let other people know. So Albert's got this question over on YouTube, and this is a good one, Steve. I know you're going to enjoy answering this one. He says, why do you not like the pulling collar? So we're talking about breast collars here. Why do you not like the pulling collar, Steve?
Okay, simply because it doesn't work on a mule. Okay, folks, we've got 1.5 inches your saddle can move forward and back, left and right. You got 1.5 inches. Why 1.5 inches? Because more than 1.5 inches, the saddle is going to get on top of the scapula. So you want your saddle to set 1.5 inches back behind the scapula. Now, your breast collar keeps the saddle from going back. Your breeching keeps the saddle from going forward. You pull the breast collar out, you should have 1.5 inches adjustment. You pull the breeching out, you should have 1.5 inches adjustment. All right, now, here's the thing. The pulling collar is attached hard and fast to the pommel on each side of the horn. So the horn's in the middle, and then there's a strap off to the left, and there's a strap off to the right, okay? Those two straps, since mules walk very laterally, every time their shoulder hits that breast collar, it makes the saddle go forward. Now, mules are already V-shaped in their shoulders. Horses are A-shaped in their shoulders. So why does that saddle want to go forward? Because there's not a shoulder or a wither there to keep the saddle from going forward. Besides that, they carry their weight down low, and they are hourglass belly toward their shoulders. So you already have the bone structure of the mule coming from the donkey, which is telling the saddle to go forward. And you've got a breeching that says don't go forward. And then here's the most important part. You have a rear cinch that's tight that's telling the saddle not to go forward. And then you've got a breast collar that every time the shoulder hits it, it brings it forward. Now, Dave, we got video of my breast collar, how it works. And what we don't want it to do, we don't want it to pull the saddle ahead until we are going up a mountain or we are pulling something to where the saddle has to stay forward in place. The pulling collar, all they do is pull the saddle forward. I have demonstrated it in saddle after saddle. Dave, I think we got a video of where we had that little demonstration from down at the ranch, huh?
Yep.
And there was a pulling collar, and you could see, folks, how it brought the saddle forward. And all I did was just took my hands like this and went boom, 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 and the saddle came forward. We put my breast collar on there, and we attached it, and when I pulled it like this, the saddle didn't come forward. So, folks, there's a big difference between a horse and a mule. There's a major difference between how they walk. Major difference.
So what I hear you saying, and confirm for me, tell me if this is correct. What I hear you saying is it has less to do with this is Steve's collar and has more to do with Steve designed this collar based upon the mule, based upon the donkey. It's not because it's yours, it's because it's a mule and donkey, and that's what makes them different, and that's where the collar comes from.
Exactly, and I didn't completely design it on my own. There was an old mule guy that I learned from, and I learned a lot from, and by golly, he was the one that first started showing me and thinking about this stuff. And all I did was take it a little bit more farther. Watching these mules and watching how they go is in riding as many mules as I have over the years. I kept trying to think, how can I make this mule comfortable? How can I keep this saddle? And that's the biggest problem that we have, Dave, with the mules, is trying to keep the saddle into place, And we got all kinds of like what's his name? Todd? No, what's his name? That big guy.
Toby.
Jess, leave it.
Toby. Toby, right?
Toby. Yeah, Toby. 340 pounds. Toby's a big boy, and that saddle stays into place. Jess. My dog's really excited because my wife just arrived, So he's telling me all about it, that, hey, Dad, Mom's here, come and kiss on her and this sort of thing. So anyway.
That's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put, for those of you who don't know and haven't seen, Steve put together the most comprehensive saddle and riding fitting video series that you will find anywhere on the internet. You cannot find any paid training, any paid videos that do a more comprehensive job of addressing how the entire tack system needs to work from the front of the animal to the rear of the animal and everything in between. Steve put it together, and we actually give it away for free. So during this next question, just look for the link in the comment section. I'm going to put that there. Get that video series, because not only will it show you exactly what Steve is talking about with the way that the mule and donkey moves, but then how the breast collar actually plays a part in that, and how if you use a pulling collar, not just how it will ride up on the animal, but why. And you can see visually why that's not a good thing. So I'll put that in the comment section. The next question we got here, this one's from Dan. Dan sent in an email and he says, hey, hi, I have a mule and 2 donkeys. One donkey is a Mammoth Jack, about 10 years old. I purchased him about a year ago. He was in sorry shape, underweight, fly sores all over him. I got him cleaned up and healed very well, but he won't gain any weight now. Ribs and hip bones are showing. I had a vet check him out. Some worm eggs are present. I've wormed him twice, so worms are not an issue. He favors his rear legs and puts his weight on his forelegs. I'm wondering, have you seen these symptoms in any other animals before?
Well, the next thing that comes to me, he didn't say anything about floating teeth.
Okay.
And that's number one thing. So we've been a year feeding, and he's not putting much weight on the back end. All right, so we need to get a farrier out and look at the hooves, and see where the coffin bone is. Feel the sole, see what it is, because he may be maybe one of the reasons he went to the sale. Folks, they don't take good animals to the sale. Very few times you're going to find one. But anyway, he could have Cushing's disease, is kind of what I'm thinking. So you might have a farrier look at the back feet, or maybe the veterinarian look at the back feet. If he's not putting his weight back there, I'm sure the vet has tube wormed him and this sort of thing. But float the teeth, and then have somebody look at the back feet and see what they look like.
Good stuff. We'll let them know. We'll hear how it goes. Let's take a look. Make sure we've got everyone here accounted for inside of Facebook. Man, Facebook is jumping all around. I had it here, and then all of a sudden it jumped back down. All right. Judy says, howdy, Steve and Dave from Norco. Judy and Miss Daisy here. Neil Campbell says, hi, Steve. Steve and Dave, I still love my saddle intact. That's what we love to hear there, Neil. Thank you so much for sharing that. Appreciate it. David is watching, says, David Cantors, Port Angeles, Washington, heat wave, 75 degrees.
Yeah, hey, I got to tell you about David.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
There's a couple things I wanted to tell you. But, you know, I've got you mule and donkey people are such, I mean, you break my heart. You know, you're so appreciative of Dave and I helping you out here. And Dave Cantor sent me a challenge coin. Now, since I'm a firefighter, that's one of the things that we kind of use one another to kind of, here's this challenge coin. And Dave sent me a whole note on what the challenge coin's all about, the history on that challenge coin. It's really neat. So, Dave, thank you so much. Matter of fact, I was going to call you today after broadcast and say, again, a personal thank you. But, Dave, I get such neat letters from people and emails and texts saying thank you so much for your broadcast. You know,
that's awesome.
It's wonderful. Yeah, David said a couple nice things about you.
Oh, hey, I'll take it.
Hey,
you know,
I can't wait no more. I can't wait no more. I got to tell you.
Okay, all right, tell me.
I can't wait no more. My granddaughter went to a horse show with her mule and got first place. Yes,
Woo!
To a horse show. Took the mule and got first place. I've got pictures, and I mean to tell you, I'm lucky I got buttons on my shirt because
that's awesome.
First place at a horse show. Now, they had over 20 entries in there, and she took first place.
That's awesome.
16 years old, too.
We got to get, and that's Nat, right?
That's Nat.
That's Nat. Folks, Nat watches regularly. Nat, if you're watching right now, just make sure you put a comment in there so we know you're watching. Nat watches regularly and comes with some of the best questions that we get on here. Everyone asks wonderful questions. It's just so cool to have Nat here asking all these questions and to see her put it all into action and win first place at a horse show with a mule, no less. Fantastic.
With a mule.
Show those folks what they need. She's showing them. She's teaching them.
Yeah, I'm going to send you pictures, Dave, and we got to get them up on the internet, you know.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, here's a 16-year-old riding in a horse show winning. Wow.
Wonderful. Awesome. We'll get those pictures up there. Yeah, you were saying that about David and all of the other folks that we've just had awesome relationships start with. And I just want to tell folks, because I know you don't always say it, Steve, but Steve has told me over and over again, hey, I want to keep doing these shows because so much has been given to me. All the cowboys that I knew, all the cowboys that have taught me, I want to take and make sure that everything I know is shared and out there and available on YouTube so that when I'm gone, folks can still benefit from everything I've taught, but then everything that I've learned as well. And so that's really why we do this. And so that's the heart behind it. David Scholl's watching. Good eye, mate. He's watching from the down under. It's good to have you here, David. I am looking for an Aussie hat. I was in a Yellowstone looking at hats, and I was like, man, no, I need to have Steve help me pick out a hat. So I'm going to get me a cowboy hat. And one of these days, y'all will see me in a cowboy hat at a clinic. I promise it will happen. Good to have you here, David. Yolanda says, I only feed my mule alfalfa hay when I see fit, and then she only gets a handful of it. And that's something you've talked a lot about, Steve, that you have to feed according to the program for that mule and according to the work that they're going to do, correct?
That's exactly correct. You know, you want to feed. That's why I told the lady earlier with her donkey companion, folks, you have to feed your mule and donkeys, and if you got a horse too, you have to feed them according to their use. You know, you're getting ready to go on a trail ride, give them some extra grain. It's okay. One of these days, Dave, I'm going to have my hands on one of these, I forget the name of it is, but it develops from eating alfalfa hay, and it almost looks like a golf ball. And it has killed horses and mules and this sort of thing because it impacted in the urinary system. Anyway, she's right. Yolanda, you're exactly correct. Feed as necessary, folks. That's I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, Yolanda does a great job. Her and Suze, which Suze is right here. Hi there from the Netherlands. They are our advocates. They are the mule and donkey advocates over there in the Netherlands, and they're doing fantastic work. And we are thrilled that y'all choose to join us week after week and spend time with us. We love having y'all, and we love hearing from you. Jason says, "Hi, Steve and Dave. I am a beginner rider, have ridden a horse twice, and I'm interested in mules. Are they good to learn to ride on, or should I learn to ride a horse first? Thank you for the live streams and the YouTube video." I love this question. Steve, what would you have to say to Jason about what he should learn to ride on?
You know, the mule and the horse is both good to set on to ride. You get yourself a good teacher, and then you get an old horse or an old mule that is well acquainted with taking a beginner out and go around circles. You betcha, either one would be fine. You know, the main thing is get saddle time in. Get in there, get used to using your voice, your hands, your legs, and your seat. You set on a good qualified horse or a good qualified mule, and they make you feel good. So either way would be good for as far as I'm concerned. You can't beat anything with a good disposition. Disposition is the most important thing. Horse,
What's
mule,
disposition?
donkey, disposition. You know?
What is disposition? Explain, just so Jason knows what to look for.
Okay, disposition is willingness to do whatever you want to do without having to fight you or go against what you want to do. So willing disposition means when I ask to pick up the reins, even though I pick them up with roan, or I make a mistake, they're willing to forget about it and go ahead and try the best they can to do what you want. Now, some of them, I can tell you that my wife's little mule, Stacy, when I was teaching people on her, she'd only take so much, and then she don't want to be pulled on anymore, you know, and then she'd get a hold of the bit and say, "Hey, don't pull." And so then my student would say, "Hey, Stacy don't want to go to the right." I said, "That's because Stacy's trying to teach you that you're pulling too much on her and you're doing it incorrectly, you know." And that's okay too. And then willing disposition means don't make any difference who you are, what color you are, anything like that. This mule, this horse, this donkey just wants to be with you, likes to be with you. Do whatever you want to do. Pet me, scratch me. I'll pick up on my feet. Just a willing, whatever you want, I'm willing to do.
Yep. And I think I'll throw in there, because this is what I've picked up from you. Both are great to ride. Find the equine with the willing disposition. But this is the part that I've picked up from you, and just let me know if I've got it correctly. Understand the differences of how to communicate if you're riding a horse versus riding a donkey, because the language that you're going to use is going to be a little bit different. While fundamentally riding might be the same, the language that you use to communicate is going to be different. So recognize which one you're riding and then learn to communicate with that breed. Is that correct?
Exactly. And the main language you want to learn with a mule or a donkey, don't pull on them. As soon as you pull on them, they're not going to be very happy with you. Okay. Now you can pull on a horse and you can kind of get away with some of it. They usually rear up. But a mule or donkey, you go to pulling on them, pretty soon they've had enough and they'll brace into it, trying to tell you, "Hey, you're hurting me. Don't do that." You know.
Yep. They communicate, and they communicate subtly. So that's why we do these broadcasts, so you know what to look for. Jenny's got a question. She asks, "Hi, Steve. I'm changing lanes, so to speak, after a long life as a horse trainer. I am getting a mini mule to keep a horse company and to own a smaller eating machine. My knowledge of mini mules is limited. I understand the feeding of horses, but running into many different mule feeding plans. I watched your video, the Feed Talk video, and learned. But what about if you do have a grass pasture? Can they just go out on them? Do you introduce them to the pasture like horses? You suggested only pellets for food. So does it have to live in a dry lot all of the time? Thank you for your input."
Well, to me, it's always best feed each one of them individually in their individual stalls. The problem with putting them out on the pasture is it's a smorgasbord. And you know as well as I do, we always overeat when we go to a smorgasbord, especially when there's a lot of desserts to try out, you know. So to answer the question, put a muzzle on them. And I've got muzzles. You can see them there on my website. Put a muzzle on them, let them go out. But the problem is, you see, they'll overeat, and if they get too many carbohydrates, then you're going to get them into a grass founder situation, and therein lies the problem with your mules and your donkeys. You put them out on that pasture, and even though it's not a very good pasture, they can still pick up the wrong carbohydrates and have problems with the crest of the neck and the dock of their tail with feeding those fat pockets. And so I never suggest put them out on a pasture. You know, I always say that you're not feeding them to butcher. Okay, it's not like taking a cow out there and having it so many months out there and they have to constantly be eating. No, you need to feed them according to their use. And this one here is just a pasture buddy, and I understand that. And I know people think they need to do that. But folks, let me just kind of touch that a minute. You don't need to have a pasture buddy for your mule. You don't. Here's the problem. I have seen so many people come to me and they say, I can't go nowhere without my goat. I can't go nowhere without my Shetland pony. I can't go nowhere without my mini-mule, you know. And that, folks, that's going to be where the problem is. You know, you need to be the horse's buddy, the mule's buddy, the donkey's buddy. You need to be the herd leader, and they need to recognize that. I've had a lot of mules over the years, and I found they do so much more better if they're in individual stalls, they're getting fed accordingly and used accordingly. And so when it comes down to your minis are really bad about getting grass founder, so be careful.
Yep, very good. And it should be said that one thing that you'll hear Steve say a lot is, hey, I'm just going to tell you what works for me. If you found that something else works for you, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I'm just going to share with you what the mule and the donkey has taught me over the last 40 years. So you may find that something else works, go for it, but this is what I've learned. So that's one thing that you'll hear Steve say a lot if you're at one of his clinics or his expos, or even sometimes here on the broadcast. Tracy is watching from Lake Como, Pennsylvania. It's good to have you here, Tracy. Warren says, thanks for the information. Neil Campbell says, does it matter if you keep the rope halter under the bridle? So number one, why would you want to keep the rope halter on with the bridle? Is that something that's normal? Number two, is it okay to keep it under it? And number three, is it okay to keep it over it? So I really don't know anything about this question. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, you really want to have your bridle where it can move. Your bridle actually moves with the bit. And you want to make sure, folks, and this is really important, not every bridle is going to fit every bit. Bridles are made specifically for certain bits. Now, let's go back to this. The reason you put a halter on is to lead an animal or to tie them up, okay? So a lot of people, Dave, leave the halters on and they go ahead and they tie their mules up. The problem is if you do that and these mules get to rubbing, they take that beautiful bridle and they tear it up. I personally do not ride with a halter underneath my bridle. I want that bridle to be free. And so what I do is in Arizona, we don't have anything to tie to, Dave. Yeah, cactus, you know. But so we hobble everything.
Right.
So when we get ready to get off, I ride with split reins, 8-foot split reins. One rein goes and gets tied up on the horn. The other rein goes down on the ground for the ground tie, and then I hobble them, and that's what I do. Is it okay to ride with the halter? Yes, it's fine, okay? But I want you to watch the bridle movement as you are down on the ground and make sure it doesn't get hung up with that halter, because some bridles and bits can hang up on that halter. So my preference is I prefer to not take my halter. I prefer to hobble myself.
Awesome. Good feedback there. Let's see. We've got Kathy watching from Cotati. I think I said that right. Cotati, California. We've got Lois in New Hampshire. We've got David saying, I think, this is David Cantors, I think my mule inherited too much horse. Is that possible? Get a mule that just has too much horse inside of him.
Oh. Well, I wonder what he's meaning by that. Is he really flighty? Is that it?
We'll have to hear. David.
Yeah.
Let's hear a little bit more about that. Eileen says, congratulations to Nat. And guess what? Nat just hopped on. So Nat's watching over on YouTube. I told her we just got done celebrating her win.
Yes. Yeah, I've got the pictures. Matter of fact, I just got some pictures in the mail today, which you don't get anymore, but I've got an album on Nat of her different things, of her growing up and things like this. But anyway, having that blue ribbon, I mean, it's not just a matter of beating that horses. It's not just a matter of that. It's a matter of Nat has trained this mule herself from day one. That mule was a handful, and she trained that mule all the way through. She's done it all herself, and she's only 16 years old. That's impressive, you know.
That's
and
awesome.
The kid is a natural, Dave. When you see her move, every move is a picture. It's awesome.
It's awesome. We've got a proud granddad right here. We can tell. Jessica says, hello, Jessica from Ohio here. Is it possible to have all of your DVD sets available for sale in digital download format, perhaps individually? I have a pony mule that I will not be riding and would like different parts of your videos for training and later driving. Thanks. So I can tell you, Jessica, we're working on getting all of them available digital for download. So as we get those available, make sure that you're subscribed to Steve's newsletter. You can send a message to support@muleranch.com, and we'll make sure that you're on the list. So as we get those released, you can get them and get access to them. And if you've got one specifically that you'd like for us to accelerate there, just let us know in the support@muleranch.com and we'll make it happen. Anthony says, Anthony King watching. Good to have you here, Anthony. Anthony says, hey guys, here's a weird one. One of my mules has to, and I mean has to, be in the very front of our stock trailer. If she's not, she will do whatever it takes to get up front, under or around the other mules or horses, causing a big mess. I found out the hard way, so I put her in front, but why is this? I've never had any of my others care. Not even once. Thanks, guys. Steve, I'm going to let you handle this one.
That's not that unusual. We got to do that even when we put pack strings together. They would like to they feel more comfortable in different places. Now, if I'm doing a long distance travel, Dave, like when we used to go to Bishop, California every year, when we loaded our mules in their trailer, here's the problem. You load all the mules where their noses are on the left-hand side. Well, all your weight from the shoulders, the head, and all is all on one side of your trailer. So your trailer actually is riding like this. I'm over-exaggerating, but if I'm going long distance, I do nose to tail. That's what I like to do, nose to tail. Now, I can also tell you that when we're going out punching cows, we throw the saddle on, the bridle on, everything on the saddle, and we jump them in the trailer, and we don't tie them up. We'll just leave them a lot of times, because if we see some cows we need to get to, we jump out of the truck and real quick and open up the trailer, throw our bridle on, and sometimes we even leave the bridles on and go out after these cattle. So it's not unusual. Look, you're finding the great thing about this guy, Dave, is he found a way to make the mule comfortable. And it's not hurting a thing. It don't hurt a thing. So that's where the mule likes it. Let him have it. Now, the only other thought I may have is maybe he could be a little blind in the right eye. I don't know. But if he's happy up there, let him go. Ain't worth it.
And that's the primary language of the mule, is comfortable, uncomfortable. You were saying don't pull on them. They don't want to be pulled on, and that's because it makes them uncomfortable. So that's the language, is the comfortable, uncomfortable. One of the things you'll see in some of Steve's videos on YouTube is you'll see folks ask him, well, what about treats? Why don't I give treats when he does a good job? And Steve will say, I'm not really one for treats. Occasionally I'll do it if I'm trying to accomplish something specific. But he says, you want to know what my positive reinforcement is? That right there. Just leaving them. Just letting them be alone. Because that's what they want more than anything else. It's just to be left alone and be comfortable. And so that's a whole new way to kind of think about things. And I think that's a great observation you made is he's up front. He's found a way to be comfortable. Hey, let him be. If you can let him be up there, let him be up there. That's great.
Absolutely.
As
soon as you pick up on that lead rope, only thing they want you to do is let go of it. So they're just looking for what you want to do, and then leave me alone, and then I'll go for the next thing, They just want to be comfortable.
Yep, that's right. Over on YouTube, Mark Miller's watching, says, thanks to you both. I not only learned what to do, but I also learned why. And then common sense will kick in. Then I understand. I also need to place an order. Thanks. Will a mule eat frosted cherry leaves? So the question was worked in there at the very end. Will a mule eat frosted cherry leaves?
I've never heard of frosted cherry leaves. Send me a couple. I'll try them.
I love that. That's funny. Let's see. Kathy says, do you still have the Trail Light saddle? Steve, do you still have the Trail Light saddle?
Oh, yeah. I mean, them Trail Light saddles go out of here every day. People just love them,
Yep. We're selling a lot of them, and folks, it's only because folks are enjoying them. That's why. Linda says, Steve, given that you've spent this could be a long question, so let's keep the answer kind of short, Steve. Given that you've spent so many years riding and working horses, do you care to share why you became so enthusiastic about mules in contrast to horses? And then she says, first place for a granddaughter at a horse show on her mule, hot dog. Thank you, Linda. So why did you become enthusiastic about the mule? So like I said, let's give the short version of this one.
Short version is this. I bought the mule to get even with it. That mule tried to buck me off. That mule tried to run away with me. That mule tried to run me underneath trees. And I just pretty much always liked the challenge, especially when I was younger. So I just said, okay, by golly, I'm going to buy you and get even with you. And all the old guys that I knew said, Steve, the tough country that you go through and stuff, you really need to be riding a mule. And I said, nah, I ain't going to ride no mule. I ain't no way. Well, today, don't ever offer me a well-broke horse and a green mule. I'll take that green mule any day of the week. That's the short end of it right there.
That's it. I'm going to put a link in the comments section. We actually have a podcast episode, very first episode on our audio podcast. You can go download it, listen wherever you listen to podcasts. And Steve talks about Casper, right? Jasper?
Yep.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, great mule. Yeah.
Linda says, hey, Dave. Linda, I'll do it right now. She says, can you tell Steve thanks for sending the Queen Valley Mule Ranch pocket knife with my come-along rope order? A nice surprise. And loving the come-along rope. It really makes a difference, and it has helped me and my mule a lot. I love watching the show. Thank you. We love hearing that, Linda. Thank you so much for saying that. We do get those comments, and every single one of them mean the world to us, and it is like rocket fuel for us to continue to want to do these shows. So thank you.
Yep.
Eileen says, congratulations to Nat. Rebecca says, Natalie and Mule, congratulations. Lori says, yay, granddaddy. Congratulations. Yolanda says, in this country, mules are not even allowed to participate in horse shows. And I'll tell you what, Yolanda, that's why we have you there, so that you can change the world's way of thinking. Get those folks in the Netherlands to know that they are missing out on the gold standard of the equine world. Ain't that right, Steve?
That's right. Yeah, I could see Yolanda doing that. I could see her doing that.
If anyone's going to break through the ranks, it's going to be Yolanda right there with Suze by her side. Bob is watching from Texas. Bob, it's good to have you here. Eddie is watching from New Mexico, represented this afternoon. Yolanda says, my mule always throws a tantrum when my daughter takes her horse out of the field, but my mule still keeps focused on me. And this afternoon, I gave her the trust to go out to her stall all by herself while I was walking behind her, following her with the horse of my daughter. And guess what? My mule loved it. Yolanda is a great advocate for just doing what works and learning about those mules, right?
Yeah, good for you, Yolanda. Good for you.
Oh,
That's great.
wonderful. Warren says, "Hey, Steve and Dave, I just want you to know I bought my first mule a few months ago. I found you by complete accident, but cherish your information." How awesome is that to hear?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I have a lot of people say, "Man, we tried to get home in time to watch it, so I'm glad we're able to watch it later on." That's
we put
fantastic.
them all up on YouTube, so I'll put a link when you're answering the next question here. I'll put a link up in the comments section so folks can take a watch. Todd's watching from Wisconsin. Todd, we're glad to have you here. Lynn Ann is watching. She says, "Just tuned in." Lynn from Colorado Springs. My donkey and I like to trail ride with friends. We ran into a stream the other day. Fancy absolutely refused to go near it. Last year, she jumped the stream. Got any suggestions? This is the first time I've listened in several weeks. Thanks. Well, first, Lynn, glad that you're here. This is the first time we've been here all 100% in the last couple of weeks, so we're right there with you. Steve, you got a mule that did the stream, no problem. Jumped over it last year. This year won't even go near it. What's happening?
Well, here's the deal. Equine do not have depth perception. And I'll give you an idea on how serious it can be. When I would judge a show, I would take a 4x8 piece of plywood, paint it white, and put a black circle in the middle. It didn't go nowhere, but the mule and donkey, with their depth perception, and the horses too, by the way, with their depth perception, were worried about it, and so they tried to go around it. Okay, now, folks, when you are teaching one to go forward, and you want them to cross the stream or over top of a tarp or something like this, get back a ways when you can, go off to the left, the right eye then will see the stream, and then always turn toward the problem, and then go off to the right, and now the left eye sees it. Now, the left brain seen it, the right brain seen it, and you turn them back and forth like this. Keep going, and every time you go off toward the stream again, use your left leg for pressure, right leg no pressure. So, in other words, every time you turn toward the stream, the mule, the donkey now becomes comfortable. When it's away from the stream, the leg has got pressure on it, and wear spurs, that's important. And then they want to get away from the uncomfortable side over here. Folks, when you're wanting one to go forward, don't make both brains think about it at the same time. Let the left brain see it, the right brain see it, and then let them think about the depth perception there. You could run a water hose on the ground, and some of them won't cross it because they don't. It's not the running water, it's the depth. They can't tell how deep it is. So that's the best. That's what I would do. Start at home, take a tarp, and fold the tarp up so it's about a foot wide and about 10, 12 foot long tarp. And practice with the tarp with your come along hitch going left, right, left, right. Why the come along hitch, Dave? Why the come along hitch? Because we're communicating from the nose first. If we want the mule, the donkey, to fix a problem where they're concerned, use their nose, not their mouth.
Yeah.
Use the come along rope. Okay? So you fold the tarp, and everybody should be doing this. All of you should be thinking about this. Fold the tarp, which is about a foot wide, about 10 foot long, and go left, right, left, right. Now, I know I'm going to have some of you say, "Steve, my mule's walked right across of it." That's all well and good, but folks, that's not training. One day your mule's going to say, "I ain't going to do it." It's going to happen. I don't care how well they are trained. One day it's going to happen. So practice that. Go to the left, go to the right, and use that come along rope, and away you go. And that reminds me, Dave.
Yeah.
I just got an email from my apprentice in Hawaii, Matthew Goddard. His mare has a brand new baby foal, and it's now 6 months old, and he's weaned it. Now, guess what he's doing? As soon as he weaned this little Molly mule, He started training immediately. Yeah. Everywhere he goes, just about everywhere he goes, he takes that Molly mule with him. You can see him going down the road, pedaling his bicycle, and leading this Molly mule with a come-along rope. You can see the tarp going down, all kinds of stuff. Everything he learned here at the ranch, he's now putting into this Molly mule. She's only 6 months old. Now, when he does the first ride, I think you and I ought to fly over to Kauai, and we better take our wives too, probably, and go watch the first ride and video it. What do you think, huh?
Oh, you are speaking my language, friend.
Yep.
That would be pretty awesome, and I know folks would want to see us broadcast live. That would be pretty awesome. Let's see. It's just past the bottom of the hour. Do you have a few more minutes to make sure we get through all these questions?
Sure. Let's go.
All right, let's go through here. Fun. David Cantors is answering up to a previous question. I was forgetting what we were talking about. But he said 0 to 60 in a nanosecond. Bolts from a tarp or if the saddle blanket falls off. Do you remember what we were talking about earlier? I can't remember what the follow-up was for. What were we talking about?
We was talking about doing the getting the mule to go forward, doing the left and right.
Was that what David's question was?
No, I don't remember.
David, remind us what your question was and what the 0 to 60 in a nanosecond is, and we'll make sure to get to it. I'm going to keep moving on, and we'll look for that, David. Jody says, would you rather recommend a horse or a mule for a person who's new to equine? And Jody, Steve this is a great question. So great, in fact, that we talked about it a little bit earlier, and I'll just summarize, and Steve, you can add anything that you want to. But Steve's answer was, you know what? Just find an equine with a good disposition, and that disposition is a willingness. Is they want to be with you, they want to be around you, they want to listen to you, they want to do what it is you're asking them to do. And so both of them will be good, especially if you find one with a good disposition. Anything else you'd add to that there, Steve?
No, perfect. Go disposition. If I only had so much money to spend, of course, I'd be looking for a mule myself, but folks, don't just run out and buy one. Go out and take lessons. There's lots of folks out there giving lessons. Get you some riding lessons. And if you can find somebody that has mules and horses, wonderful, but get those riding lessons.
Yep, absolutely. Let's see. Lori says, I don't tie Nick in the stock trailer. The trailer is blue. Nick wedges his butt into the corner, and guess what color the back end of my little white mule is when we get where we're going.
Yeah, boy.
That's funny.
So she's got a blue ass.
Yeah. That's going to give me the giggles.
Yeah, I'm getting past that one up.
That's funny. Kevin says, wilted cherry leaves are toxic. They produce cyanide. So our question about frosted cherry leaves the answer is no. We do not want toxic cyanide getting into the bloodstream. Wow. So thank you for that, Kevin.
Yes.
Let's see. Blue asses are okay, but wild cherry leaves are not. Don Brown says, good afternoon. Finally caught you guys live. Don, we are so glad that you're here. Thank you for hanging out with us. Cindy says, I'm watching from Bakersfield, California. Cindy, we are coming to you live from, I guess, the Eastern Valley of Arizona, and we could not be more thrilled that you're here hanging out with us. Neil says, my wife turns the horses out in the morning. If she doesn't let my mule out with them, she goes crazy. I'm hoping he says the mule goes crazy, not his wife. What should I do?
Well, there's not anything you can do, partner. Mules are very subservient to horses. And when they see the horse go, they're thinking, oh, man, the whole world's coming to an end, And it's a good time to do some training as far as I'm concerned. I'd put my come-along hitch on it, and I would do a bunch of training with that mule and do circles and do some things for me. But you are not going to change it, Where people make mistakes is they put the mule in with the horse. The horse beats the mule up, and then they got a big vet bill. But, folks, mules are extremely subservient to horses. That's the way they are. When I was out packing at Yosemite, we rode geldings, and we led the mules. And it was amazing to see the mules. They would be out running free, where we were camping as we were fixing trails or whatever. And we would would bail. We'd put a bail on our horse, and then we'd hobble a back foot. And then the mules would walk over and check out the horse, make sure the horse was fine, and go back out and feed again. But they will follow a horse. I'm telling you, folks, they would jump off the Grand Canyon if the horse did it, unfortunately. There's no changing it. It's the way it is. I've tried all kinds of ways. I've tried shock collars, but what I have done is I have put surcingles on them. I put a halter on them, and I let them train while he's going bananas. Give him something to do. Put a surcingle on him. Put a halter on him. Tie the halter back with some baling twine. And let him learn to get soft. Let him fight that halter. It'll be good for him. So take advantage of that.
Awesome. Let's see here. We've got a family affair going on here. We've got Jason. Jason Gann saying, Steve, we want to thank you for your guidance and encouragement to Nat. And then Nat says, just got back from Ozark Mule Days. I met someone who said they are going to ask you to do a clinic down there next year. Also met several people who love your training. And Jason says it's always fun to watch show-winning Arabs take a loss to a mule.
That's great. That's good. Yeah, well, if I tell you what, if I go to Ozark to do a clinic, I'm going to have Nat on my side because I know I'll have a good clinic then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Linda says, hey, fellas, these videos are like watching cooking shows. You know, you listen and you watch, just like seeing your mother in the kitchen, and before you know it, you just begin to understand it. Steve, we are ascending the ranks here. How fun is that to read?
How about that?
Let's see here. Got a few more to go through. Let's see. Dawn says we are from Arkansas and we are planning to buy another mule in the next several months. Your insights are so helpful, Dawn. So glad to hear that. I know you said you're looking to buy another one. Don, I just sent you a quick article from Steve talking about when you're looking to buy that next mule. I just sent you an article in case it's helpful. Yolanda says, I try to get mules accepted in this country, but I guess that there is too much water in the land because all I say to them is just floats away. But when people ask me how is it to have a mule, I say them no more horses for me. Mules rule, and they are the best, and that is the truth. Bob says, love y'all's video. Sue says, in Europe, it is already past midnight, and we're still watching. That is a high compliment right there.
Yes. And then, by the way, I know that Yolanda bought a saddle from one of my clients that had bought one about 5 years ago, that it was on her donkey. Now, Yolanda's got that Spanish Mustang. And that saddle, she says, fit like a glove.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That is a key differentiator right there, because we will get folks that say, Steve, I want to get a custom saddle made. Steve, I want to have this saddle fit to the mule and to my mule. And one of the things that will kind of say, hey, you could get a custom saddle made, but you got to think about it. Number one, if that mule is no longer with you for whatever reason, now you got a saddle that either has to go with that mule or it's useless. Number two, you get the saddle fit in the winter, and now you're riding in August. Winter, nice and fat. August, been working all summer. It's a different size mule, so you want the saddle to fit to the bone structure, not the muscle mass. And that's why Yolanda's able to get this saddle from one customer that's of Steve's and one mule and apply it to the other one, because it's meant to fit the bone structure, not the muscle mass. Did I get that right?
You did. I also remember the lady before had a donkey. And that saddle went on the mule. Now, how much more proof do we need than that we have the donkey bone structure, i.e. was on the donkey, and now she put it on her Spanish mule. Wow. Cool.
Yep. And you know what? I shared a link to the mule training saddle course. I'll put it in the link again. We actually show the saddle being fitted on a 16 hand high mammoth Rufus, and then moving all the way to a 14 something Welsh pony, and same saddle, same fit.
Yep. 13.5 actually.
13.5. Smaller than I was even saying. Yeah. Same saddle. Great fit. All right, let's keep moving along here. Gary says, Gary from Belleville, Illinois. Gary, we're glad that you're here. Let's see. Yolanda adds, mules are stronger than horses. I mean, 5-hour ride is nothing for them. Let them eat. Let them eat on the way when they need it, and just move on after eating. But don't rush them. Just let them carry on to the moon, carry you to the moon and back. Cindy asks a question here. Hi, Steve. I have a question. My mule came from back east. He goes in the trailer. Moved. Mind you, I have rear tack. On used to all my horses flying in the I'm used to all my horses flying in the trailer. Johnny goes in at his own leisure. He doesn't back out of the trailer. My guess is he was used to stock trailers, so instead of him folding up like a pretzel to turn all the way around, I out him in the front stall and let him come out the escape door. So I don't see the question. Maybe just more a comment. She says, I love my mule saddle. I purchased it from Steve. So what would you have to say there? Just comments about the experience that she's having.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, there again, she's finding what works good for the mule. It doesn't make any difference how a mule comes out of a trailer. It don't. The main thing is it comes out controlled. Remember that mule that we did the video on, Dave? And I got to where I could barely pick up on the lead rope, and the mule would pick up a foot. I barely pick up on the lead rope, and the mule would put a foot down on the ground. I barely pick up on the lead rope, and then the next foot would come down.
Yep.
Folks, if it's controlled, it makes no difference if you go out backwards or forward. You're still under a lot of danger because these mules and donkeys, a lot of them want to hurry up and get out of the trailer, and these horses. But if they are controlled and they're halter trained, just like it shows in that video, that trailer loading video, you can tell a foot to come every time you move your hand.
That's right. Okay, so David came back to us, and he said, so the 060 nanoseconds, he was following up by saying, can a mule have too much horse in him? I think my mule has too much horse. And we said, what did you mean by that? He goes, 0 to 60 in a nanosecond, bolts from a tarp, or if the saddle blanket falls off. So that Fright and Flight.
Yeah, well, there again, let's go back to the nose training, David.
All right.
Put your come along hitch on there. And let that saddle blanket hit the ground. Make the nose understand. Flight and Fright kicks in. You see, that mule has never respected the halter to start with. If he'd respected the halter to start with, if he had good ground training, which most mules and donkeys and even horses don't, they don't have respect for that halter. So put the come along hitch on there. Start doing your basics. Matter of fact, the perfect one, Dave, would be the ground communication video, and to get your ground foundation set up. And it makes no difference what you throw at them; they're going to stand still because they don't want their nose bumped.
Yep, that's right. All right, so we got a question here from Gary. Let me pull it back up. Gary says, I have a super anxious mule. He's finally fine by himself. But when there is another equine within earshot, he gets all nervous, and I can't get good training done with him.
Yeah.
Help.
Yeah, well, you can get good training with them, because here it is, folks. When these animals get to a stressful point, that's when you know if your ground foundation is correct, and that's important. Unfortunately, people don't understand foundation training, A, B, C, D, E, F, D, steps, and that's important. So going back to this, when he's under stress, that shows how much groundwork, how much foundation training the mule has had. Okay, now let's just say, he has had some ground foundation. He is doing good on the ground, except for when he's under stress. Well, put the come along hitch and take him to that point. And then when he becomes worried and this sort of thing, the bump, the asking, telling, demanding. The majority of the time here, Dave, these mules, they don't have respect for the halter, and therefore they become the problem that they are.
There we go. Gary, hopefully that helps. If you have any follow-up questions, be sure and let us know. Johnson's Taxidermy is here saying, hey, Steve. Let's see. We've got... Sue says Yolanda was so very excited about your Steve Edwards saddle. I wish my fjord horse was a long ear. There we go. Renee Christie is here. Gives us a big smiley face emoji.
Hey, Renee.
Let's see here. Cindy says he always waits for me to get out of the way. It's the going in at his leisurely self that she was thinking about. Let's see. Jessica says, which is the best of your videos to start ground training on my pony mule and mini donkey?
Well, I'd be using the ground communication kit. It's got the video, it's got the halter, and it has the come along rope. Get the kit, and then away you go.
We have more comments about those three combination of products than just about anything else, and it's because they are, quite honestly, they're the least expensive thing on the store, and they make the biggest amount of difference when it comes to training. It's amazing. It's amazing. Let's see here. David says, thanks, guys. And let me double check over on YouTube. I think we got everything. Yep, Steve, that's it. That's all our questions for this week. We went a little bit long. We had a short show 2 weeks ago. We skipped last week, so we're back this week, and we'll be back next week. Folks, thanks for hanging out, spending some time with us, spending your afternoon, early evening with us. It means a great deal. Yolanda and Suze and everyone international, thanks for spending the hours. Whatever that time difference is, thanks for spending it with us. Folks, if you want to get a hold of Steve, just go to muleranch.com. You'll find his phone number there, 602-999-6853. Leave a voicemail, or you can send him a text message with pictures. You can also send me a message at support@muleranch.com if you have any questions about finding the right product or the right video or anything else I can point you in the direction of. But folks, we want to help you. We're here to help. We're here to serve. And we keep showing up because that's really what we're going after. Steve, is there anything else that you want to share before we call this show a wrap?
No, I think we're in good shape. It was an awesome show. Got a lot of participation. I like that.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
yeah.
a dandy.
Fantastic participation. And that's what makes these shows great, man. I love you, Steve, but if it was just me and you hanging out for an hour, by golly, I'd rather be somewhere else doing something else if it was just you and me. But having everybody else here, man, that makes it certainly worth it.
Absolutely. Awesome. Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
We were talking about Kauai earlier.
Oh, yeah.
We got some video up and coming, folks, of the Kauai mule ride, where Susan and I went down off the side of an ocean mountainside down to a leopard colony. And this guy has nothing but my saddles and pads on his mules. He's got a few that he's not quite got rid of yet, but you can hear him talk about his dad, Buzzy, starting the first mule ride in Hawaii, and it's pretty interesting. Dave will have to do that ride someday.
Yep. So, folks, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Just go to youtube.com, search for Queen Valley Mule Ranch. You'll find us, subscribe, and all the new videos that we've got coming up here in the next several months, you'll get an alert for all of them. Thank you so much for being here. We're very grateful, very blessed. A lot of gratitude. Y'all make this show special, and we will see you next week. Steve, we'll see you next week, all right?
Yes, sir. We'll see you. We'll see if we can have a different hat next week.
That's right. All right, we'll see y'all. Bye-bye now.
Bye.